I was a government-trained spy that had possible psychic abilities and was able to remote view. And I was looking into all this stuff. Like, one of the first things I would probably do, especially even if I left the government, was to sit down, use whatever abilities I had to remote view myself into a UFO. Have you done that?
No, and frankly, I never said I was a good remote viewer. I was taught early on some techniques by one of the top Army's remote viewers. Wonderful gentleman, very, very gifted. Sadly, I was not that gifted, but it turns out that a lot of people have that capability. And it's really, I think, once you talk to some of the scientists, you realize it's not paranormal like people suggest it is. It's probably just some sort of latent capability that humans have had for a very long time before we really were able to verbalize communication with one another, and it became very sophisticated. Dogs, for example, when they come across and they see each other, there's some sort of nonverbal communication, and some scientists are speculating maybe that's a form of, we call it psychic, but in reality, it's just a normal part of human interactions, and a lot of people can do it. My involvement was only tangential.
There's a story you tell of a terrorist suspect, and there was a remote viewing operation done that you were part of.
Yes, we did an experiment. Probably shouldn't have, but we did. And long story short, it appeared to be very effective.
That alleged capability for remote viewing and its potential connection to non-human intelligence may sound like a gift.
And there's a lot of information to substantiate that this is real morphology occurring in the human brain.
Elizondo argues that people with enhanced chordate putamen might have a talent both for remote viewing and communicating with UAPs. And that's important because it's an established fact that the Pentagon has had an interest in remote viewing for military purposes.
In the vernacular, they used to call it psychic espionage. There was a program in the U.S. government, it's called Stargate. They were taking young soldiers and civilians, and they were training them to conduct espionage behind enemy lines. And the term was called remote viewing. A lot of people that were in the remote viewing program had MRIs done of their brains, and a vast majority have that specific morphology. Do I think it's extraordinary? No, it may be a vestigial capability that humans had for a long time.
But does it work?
Oh, it absolutely works. It absolutely works.
You see, remote viewing has been discredited. The CIA determined that it doesn't work.
Okay, sure.
You're saying it does work?
It absolutely works.
Lue says he knows it works because he was trained in remote viewing himself.
No, it may be a vestigial capability that humans had for a long time.
But does it work?
Oh, it absolutely works. It absolutely works.
You see, remote viewing has been discredited. The CIA determined that it doesn't work.
Okay, sure.
You're saying it does work?
It absolutely works.
Lue says he knows it works because he was trained in remote viewing himself.
I don't like to really publicly talk about it. My involvement was only tangential.
And you allege that the government is conducting experiments on the human brain in relation to remote viewing. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, the remote viewing program went by many names. One of them was called Stargate. Before that, it was called Grill Flame, etc., and began really in the late 1960s, early 1970s, led by a gentleman, one of my former colleagues, actually, Dr. Hal Puthoff, who actually worked at the time with Stanford University and created what is now known as the, quote, psychic spy program for the Central Intelligence Agency. And those techniques were quite effective. There's a lot of information to substantiate that, yeah, actually the program did work, even though it was eventually shut down due to budgetary concerns.